come to the right place. Yharnam is the home of blood ministration. You need only unravel its mystery. But where's an outsider like yourself to begin? Easy, with a bit of Yharnam blood of your own. But first, you'll need a contract.
Welcome to our Bloodborne spoilercast. This is the first time we've done one of these, and this is honestly the first game that I feel like I've put enough time into that I have something to contribute. This is Christian.
This is Christian.
Our first guest star. Not a guest host. He's picky about that.
Yes.
And then you all know Patrick.
Hi.
I don't know Patrick.
That's okay. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to them.
They know me.
So,
They know me.
Well,
Bloodborne. we have our first spoiler cast. Most of what we say we're going to be able to back up. We're going to do it either through the conversation itself or editing later on. And most of what you get comes from item descriptions. There's not nearly as much dialogue in this game as there was in Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2. So the vast majority of things comes from descriptions and locations where things are found.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with a timeline. We're going to follow that up with factions and then talk about specific things. And then at the end of the episode, we'll go ahead and go on to theories, which that stuff is not going to be based on specific facts, but these are just the big mysteries that we have.
Yeah.
Like
And how we piece them together.
yeah. And so if that sounds like something you're interested in, then keep on watching.
if not, keep on watching.
Yes.
Or just leave it on and go somewhere else. I also want to shout out to Kelly at GameStop in Stonebriar. She her tattoo was just a really cool thing, and she let me take a picture of it, and we talked for like 15 minutes about Bloodborne yesterday. And I love that that's the kind of culture that From Software engenders with all of their games. I mean, even like there's a lot of people that didn't like Dark Souls 2 as much, most people, but there's still a lot of discussion to be had, and we really appreciate this game because it allows you to kind of tell your own story and not in the way of you have created your character, now they go into this world, but you get to explore, you get to theorize, you get to have ideas about a thing. And Miyazaki encourages that. Specifically in his interview, there were questions that he wouldn't answer. He would just say, it's a mystery. And he has theories on it. Other people on his team, he said, disagreed with some of his theories. But he's created a world that is coherent enough that it's fun to explore. It's fun to look at and to really just dive in. And so that's why we're here. That's why we've done this spoiler cast, and it'll be the first, possibly. We'll see what other ones come up, but
Actually, it has to be the first.
Yeah.
Unless we save this and post another one later, before it.
but it could be the only, in which case it wouldn't be the first.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well,
Nope.
first and only.
There's some
No
others
more
I'd
arguments.
like- There's some others
There will
I'd
be
like
no
to do.
arguing. All right,
No
so-
arguing on this Bloodborne spoiler cast. None
Right.
at all.
So let's talk about the timeline.
Yes.
The timeline.
So, the timeline. As far as I can tell, the timeline starts with Loran.
Okay.
Because Loran is described as this place that fell into ruin many, many years ago. The Loran Chalice is received after you beat Amygdala at the end of that section. Mm-hmm. And so my theory is that is Loran.
Okay.
And you transport there, and it's it's obviously uninhabitable. Mm-hmm. But it is still a physical place.
So the Loran Chalice is okay, but who were the hunters that originally went into the chalices? So when the chalice dungeons were found, right? So
And they're all under Yharnam.
they're all under Yharnam. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how does it exist under Yharnam?
We know that Lauren experienced is it Lauren or was it the other town that's nearby? I think Lauren. They talk about how a plague of beasts, like a scourge of beasts, happened there too, and then it was like foreshadowing that it may happen in Yharnam as well.
Yharnam is next. Yes, that is Loran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's underneath.
Well,
Okay, the chalices that have been found were found underneath Yharnam in the tombs of the old ones.
Yeah.
However, Gehrman talks about how the chalices themselves, some have been found, some have been protected, some have been hidden, and some have been lost in the world of men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, my theory is because I mean they had contact with the Great Ones. Amygdala lives there.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that a chalice could be there.
Yeah.
I keep pronouncing her name Amygdala.
Well, that's
I know it's
very
Amygdala.
intentional.
Yeah, I know it's
Yeah.
intentional.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm fighting Amygdala. Amygdala. Wait, what? No.
Yeah.
Interesting fact I found, the tonsil stone, which lets you get to the Nightmare Frontier, tonsil in like 2 different languages, I think French and Italian, means amygdala.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
in Japanese,
Yeah.
it's almond.
It's almond?
Almond.
That makes sense
Oh.
because isn't it almond
It's
shaped?
the same shape. Yeah.
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 That's
And it
just
looks
weird
mysteriously just like Amygdala's head.
Yep.
Well,
Coincidence.
you know what? But if it does indeed exist under Yharnam, that actually makes sense because a lot of Bloodborne stems from. Well, there's a lot of different like sources and different different things, but a lot of it to me is very Lovecraftian. And,
Oh, yeah.
and because of that, like the whole idea of this world existing underneath your world that existed before your world, it would make sense. I mean,
If that's your thing,
Yeah.
Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman is really wonderful. Like the entire story takes place in London Below,
nice.
and it's
I'll have to check that
really
out.
really good.
I'll have to check that out.
But
So
yeah,
anyways.
so Laron,
Yep.
Laron fell into disrepair, and I have the Thumerians. I don't really have a whole lot about when they were. I just know that they were a long time ago.
Yeah.
They're referred to as a race of supernatural beings. Queen Yharnam was one of them, and then they have their own chalice. So there's the various creatures and bosses that exist there, and they're like a tall, pale race of beings that had supernatural powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know a whole lot about them. I just kind of stuck them in there because we know that they predated almost everything, almost all the locations that we visit.
Yeah.
And we know that they were the first civilization, at least the first one that we know to make contact with the Great Ones directly.
Yeah.
Right. And they were
So
also
not part of the Great
and the
Ones, yeah.
well the Thumerians were also the ones who created the tombs of the Great Ones. So
Yeah.
that's where we know that they had contact and they were seeking contact.
Yeah.
And I have a screenshot from last night of me, another cooperator, and the host of that all doing the make contact
Oh, really?
gesture,
That's
and
cool.
that made me so happy.
Did you wait long enough to move?
Yeah.
No, because we were gonna go fight, and yeah,
Okay.
but it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
So, as far as locations that you actually get to visit, the first one that was founded was when they found, and this is one of the things that I have a bit of questions about.
Okay.
Whether Byrgenwerth was founded when they found the things beneath Old Yharnam, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they were found underneath a city that already existed. Because if they built a city on top of that to contact the Great Ones, which makes sense because damn near everybody in the world is trying to, in some form or fashion, to have contact with the Great Ones.
Yeah.
So to have a city on top of these tombs that were found makes sense.
Yeah.
But it also could have been a thing where somebody, struck a gas line and fell down and
Oh, sure.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Look
that-
what happened.
that happens all the time.
It sounds more plausible to me that they would have built Old Yharnam first and then discover the tomb simply because you wouldn't build where did the population come from if Byrgenwerth was built first? Did they all migrate from Loran, or was Old Yharnam kind of like naturally habitated and then they built Byrgenwerth as a response to them finding the tombs?
Another thing that supports that is that if my theory was correct and they found the tombs and then they built the stuff, wouldn't Byrgenwerth be like right smack in the middle of that?
You'd think it
Sure.
Because it
Yeah.
was
Why would they
designed-
build it over in the forest?
Right.
Yeah.
So
You don't.
okay.
You don't build. Yeah.
Yeah.
You build on the water, as it were. I
Okay,
mean,
so there we go. One
Yeah.
mystery solved.
Yep.
Solidified. Fact. Heard it here first.
And Provost Willem is the one in charge of that place, and he kind of develops the first modern way of contacting the old ones.
This is impression.
Yep. You're so helpful, old Willem.
I will. I was gonna say.
He points.
He does point.
He does point, and
Yeah.
and then he gives me an eye rune
After you kill him.
He gave it to me.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Okay. What? How does he give it to you? What is the trigger for that?
Does he croak on his own?
No, I may have
Accidentally.
You may have
encouraged him along.
slaughtered him.
I was gonna
It
say
was
this,
a really quick kill. I wouldn't say slaughter.
Yeah, in Bloodborne, little known fact for people who don't play, you don't actually press a button to talk to people, you just slash them.
Yeah.
And provoke them to
And
say
see what they
things.
say stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things like, ow, and that hurts, and what are you doing?
And I am dead.
apparently that's how I thought the game was played, because I killed everybody in this game.
You're,
So a lot of this, I missed certain bits of story, and I'm gonna do New Game Plus. I'm gonna be like saving more people and not killing. I killed Eileen
Immediately.
Immediately.
Oh.
I saw her.
Those-
She gave me some
okay.
stuff, and then I just killed her. Yeah.
Okay, having...
Wait,
had the
after
blades
you
of
talk
peace.
to her?
Yeah, well, you talk to her and she's like, she gives you, what is it, a gesture and some clothing.
the cape something.
And
The
then
cape flourish.
and then right then I killed her.
But why?
Yeah, you can get the Blades of Mercy.
He wanted the Blades of Mercy.
Oh,
So you
okay.
can get
And when you...
Did you
picked
know
the
that
badge-
before you
Yes.
encountered her? Okay.
Yeah, someone was like, okay, if you who is it?
Body video?
Video. I think he was the one who talked about it. Some other people did too.
Okay.
But they were like, all right, if you do this, you'll get access to Blades of Mercy like way early. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
because...
okay. Like
Yeah.
I just met her, and I was like, okay, I'll just
I
kill
don't
her.
have a connection to you.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
She killed one of the most
No.
developed characters
Well,
in that game.
So I didn't look as none of us did. Like I didn't look into the story of Bloodborne. I didn't look into I went into this very blindly. Other than that, but like story wise, I didn't know that she was going to be doing anything. I didn't know that she was going to be like.
You just knew
she
she
was the
had blades.
She had
and
blades on.
you
I wanted
could
them.
have blades.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's a lot of the story that I didn't get. So I'm I'll add when I can. But
Yeah.
I got some item description stuff and beat the game. But I did not. Yeah, I should not have done that.
Yeah.
Like I saved some people.
Okay, so
but
did you kill them yourself, or did you send everyone to the clinic?
oh no. Like I mean, I didn't kill off people who.
We're obviously not ever going to be aggressive.
Yeah, except for who is it? So as soon as you get into
Cathedral.
as soon as you get into the cathedral, the guy with the cloak, and
The
he's-
Samaritan,
you can't even see him.
Udin, yeah.
Yeah, so
How do you pronounce the chapel?
Odin.
Yeah.
Okay.
As soon
There's
as I went in
some
there,
weird pronunciation.
but as soon as I went in there, and he's like his. It's not
looks
even
like
like a cloak. It's like he's using like a blanket that's like in tatters, and I can't see his face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy doesn't even look human.
No.
And I was really worried that he was going to just kill me or kill other people at some point, so I killed him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
But I didn't kill like what's her face, the Lady of the Night. What's her
Ariana.
face?
Ariana.
Yeah. So I didn't kill her. I didn't kill. I rescued a couple people.
You don't have
The
to. She
suspicious
dies by
man.
herself anyway.
She
so.
does. She does.
okay,
The
the suspicious man can eat a dick because
Yeah.
I left him alive, but like he just never like he's just always like, I know what you're up to. You're a douche, and I'm like, I'm saving, I'm helping.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's
I can't even defend that now.
Yeah, well, that's probably the weakest part of the game is the characters. It just relative to like Dark Souls and Demon Souls.
Yeah.
I haven't played Demon Souls. I've only played Dark Souls and then Bloodborne. But
Demons is my favorite. So
Demons is awesome.
the characters
I want
that,
them to remaster that. I will play the crap out of that. I will play that again.
yeah.
the characters that come back to your hub, which is in Dark Souls, is Firelink Shrine. Every one of those characters has a complete arc.
Yeah.
And they all contribute in some way to your understanding of the world. And as you see all of their characters' storylines, you start to piece together kind of like the themes of Dark Souls. And with Bloodborne, there's a lot of kind of almost inconsequential characters, like like the suspicious man or the holy woman. She's like partially significant, but only to clue you on other more significant things.
Yes.
She's not a big deal by herself.
And that's the thing is like I feel like there are characters that they more represent something than necessarily being significant in their own right. Like we were talking at one point about Gascoigne's family.
Yeah.
Like his little hub, it's him, wife, 2 daughters.
Yeah. And then Henrik, granddad.
They're mildly, I would say godfather.
Well, she calls it, the little girl mentions granddad. And
That's true.
Yeah, the theory is that
Okay.
of course she would say granddad, but he may not be. But,
Right, just
I mean-
aunt whoever. And,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we had those. Back to the timeline.
Yeah, back to the timeline.
We will come back to that, but
Sure.
briefly, I just their characters, their story arc, the things that happen to them are mildly interesting, but it's more important about exposing like the way that the clerics are tainted, and the more they delve into the blood rituals and in trying to protect, they destroy what they have, and that's what I feel the characters are supposed to represent, instead of being significant themselves.
Sure.
So Byrgenwerth, and we have Provost Willem, Lawrence, and Gehrman, because we know that Gehrman was back with Willem. I'm trying to remember my source on that. But we know that he predates the church, because he is referred to as the first hunter, whereas Ludwig was the first church hunter.
Yes.
Which is fun. So then Lawrence takes off, and I'm gonna continue to fear the old blood and everything. But an interesting fact that I actually just found this morning is in the interview with Miyazaki in the book, he says that that Lawrence's skull that you find in Vicar Amelia's chamber was the start of the church.
So it wasn't until he died?
Yeah.
Huh.
Which I kind of assumed that he left and then he started this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what I think based on that is that he developed a following, and then when he died, it became ritual.
I also like that
And
you
then
said
the
based
church.
on that and touched the Bible here.
The Bible. Yes.
the living
I
text.
swear
It's
that
not
I will.
actually. If you didn't see, this is the Bloodborne guide.
Yes.
Yeah.
not the Holy Bible, but
It's a Bible.
unholy Bible, as it were.
That's not bad.
So one thing that I wanted to touch on, we kind of glanced over. So when the discovery of the old ones and everything was found,
Great ones.
the great
Old
ones.
Demon Souls.
I know. Well, I keep missing it because in Lovecraft they refer to them as old ones.
Yeah.
and this is all like Lovecraft. So
Of course.
So when they discovered that, that's the church was founded shortly after that, right? Because you're talking about it being founded with Amelia, but
Well, because they've been pursuing Great Ones ever since Willem.
Yeah.
And where they diverge, after some period of studying them,
Yeah.
they diverged because they discovered blood.
Yes,
And then
because of
Lawrence
blood
wanted to
ministry.
pursue that,
Yeah.
but Willem was afraid of it and wanted to stick with. He wanted to try and find an alternate path
Yeah.
to ascension, and then he later found eyes.
yes.
I assume that he found that path after Lawrence already left.
Yeah.
I feel like he was searching for insight, because it talks about back before he believed that we needed what's the quote about courage without
Evolution without courage.
evolution without courage is madness.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the idea, is he wanted to very deliberately, and I think that he had made progress,
Yeah.
but I don't feel that he had gotten to necessarily the concept of eyes on the inside.
Yeah.
Literal.
Literally.
Literal eyes.
In case you haven't played Bloodborne yet, it's very literal.
Yes.
Or he took
So-
it literally at least, and then it became literal.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it
disgusting.
works.
Yeah.
How he was able to like surgically open his skull and put
And
the
then
eyes
add
in,
it, yeah.
and then just not die from that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, okay. So
Although I suppose you do eat the umbilical cords
Yes.
to gain ascension, so perhaps that's what he did because he has one of the umbilical cords.
Yeah. But still, how do you?
well, there's also the question of how the words are emblazoned on our minds.
That's true. Yeah.
So it could be a similar thing where there is a process in which they contact. Theory.
Yeah.
There could be a process in which the great ones are contacted, and it's like madman's knowledge. How is that ingested? It's a skull, and you kind of pop it over your head, and it's like there's something mystical.
Yeah.
And very specifically magical about the way in which insight is gained.
Yeah.
It's also just the same animation they've used in all of the Souls games. So yeah, just
which I'm like they're blood echoes. I still lost a lot of souls
souls. Yeah,
because I can't stop
referring to
saying
souls.
that.
I think we have to refer to them as blood echoes for a later point that I'll make about how the church
Yes, we
knew that they were doing bad things, and I think they had lots of motive.
Okay, so Lawrence and Gehrman leave separately, but I feel like that Gehrman was trying to act as a go-between theory again. But I feel like Gehrman was looking more to be a go-between. There's a piece of dialogue where if you find Gehrman asleep off in the back where you change out the messenger hats and stuff, he's asleep, and if you try to talk to him, then he's kind of crying, and he says Willem, Lawrence, anybody come help me. But like that to me,
Does he refer to Willem? I thought it was only Lawrence. Like he was waiting for Lawrence to come save him. He's
waiting for Lawrence. I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's one of those secret dialogues that most of us don't even hear when we play, and then you go on YouTube and someone has that in their video, and you're like, wait, I didn't get that.
I didn't get that.
Yeah.
I didn't get that at all.
There was a lot more Eileen dialogue than I thought there was.
Was there?
Yeah, it's like 8 minutes long.
Okay.
So
I missed it
I mean,
all.
you wouldn't know.
Nope.
I mean, I read all of it last night.
I heard, I think that was what I heard from her.
Well, and the conversation
and she burned as
beforehand
well. Yeah.
when she was friendly to you,
Yes.
and then you murdered her.
Yes. Well, I stabbed her a couple times and then I
Okay,
burned
while
her.
they discuss this, I'm going to look up Gehrman's dialogue real quick.
Are you trying to escalate or de-escalate from murder with that statement? That clarification.
Clarify how I did it.
Okay.
I
So
also
we've got
forced
the method.
her to fall, which
Oh.
helps if you decide to kill her early. You can lead her onto the
The railings,
yeah.
just in the door you came through.
Yeah, so if you run through the railing, if you do it right, she'll try to follow you and she'll sidestep off.
Yeah.
And she'll sidestep. If you do it right, she'll fall into the drainage point of that
with the rats and yeah.
Yeah. If she falls down there, she's almost dead, and then you can fire.
And then
her.
just yeah.
Yeah, I just threw fire at her.
Oh, okay.
I
You
killed
can
her.
do that falling hit.
You can do the falling.
Why
hit.
would you
I was
not do falling hit? Because
I was
falling
scared
strikes
I
are
would
the
miss.
best. Well, you could
falling
miss.
strikes are awesome, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to miss and then die because I figured if I miss, then she's gonna attack me. And I've already got the
Likely.
rats, yeah. And I've already got the rats, and at that point you're really low level. So
That's true. Which is why maybe
I
you
think
don't.
I was level 12 at that point. I mean,
No, you do
just
start.
started the game.
Yeah, you start at 10, right? Unless you do milk toast.
Oh,
then you
that's
start
right.
at 1.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe 18 then. I didn't.
Well, I'm saying like you could have been level 12 when you got there. Maybe, probably not.
I know I was very low level, and yeah.
What's really interesting is going back for New Game Plus. Like, I remember so many of these areas, and I'm like, yeah, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
And just kind of run through or plow through or whatever. Okay, so
Yeah.
here
took you
is
hours before. Like the whole effigy area. Like
Oh my goodness.
Like I think I spent like 2.5, 3 hours. Like,
I'm trying to remember what you're talking about.
So in Yharnam where all the
they have the wolf that's burning on the cross. Okay. Yeah.
So
Crucifix.
trying to figure out a way around that. I think I spent probably 2.5 hours maybe on that.
Yeah.
And then now it's just I just running through here, go up the stairs and just leave them. Or pick them off in pairs of 2 or 3.
Yeah,
But
that's a really, really great opening part of the game.
Oh,
To
it
like
is.
teach you how to like mob control.
Oh, yeah.
Or that you can just run by these people. You don't have to encounter everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to kill all these people, and it would get overwhelming because in Bloodborne, if there's like more than 2 or 3, if there's more than like 1, it can be a problem.
well,
Once you
if
get that
you're-
hunter
if you're
axe.
dealing with,
Yeah,
like,
unless you get the hunter axe. I did not. I had the cane.
I
It did
like
okay.
King.
Yeah, it did okay though.
So this is how these are going to go. We're going to start with a plan, and then we're going to drop it entirely. However,
Yeah.
here is the dialogue from Gehrman after defeating Rom the Vacuous Spider. Oh, Lawrence, Master Willem, somebody help me, unshackle me, please. Anybody, I've had enough of this dream. The night blocks all sight. Oh, somebody, please. Crying.
Okay.
So,
So I was right, 100%.
right. So
as well.
there is Gehrman is trying to and sees Willem and Lawrence both as friends, and so that relationship is canon.
And it also gives us a glimpse at the nature of his relationship to the hunter's dream. and
Right,
to the
but
moon
that's
presence.
That's
Which
I mean, yes, that's
I wanna
much
get
later.
in- yeah, I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah,
get into.
we'll
yeah.
go through the whole timeline allegedly,
Yeah.
yeah.
and then we'll go back in details.
And Gehrman was also the one who started the Healing Church workshop.
Yeah, I believe that's true.
And so, we'll try to find descriptions for these things. But like these are things I have marked, things that are theories and things that were specifically pulled from item descriptions, dialogue, things that I found. And I'll try to keep up with that as best I can. But yeah, he did the Healing Church workshop, and then Ludwig comes in, which says that Gehrman founded the Healing Church workshop fairly early in the church because Ludwig being the first hunter, it says that he diverged from
For Church Hunter.
First church hunter. Yes, it says that Ludwig splits from Gehrman's. Like, so Gehrman has this plan, and he's like, but we could have bigger guns,
Yes.
bigger weapons, and like that was his thing. And so I think that shows that he had a better idea of what they were getting into, like that they were in fact creating these beasts.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a quote that I have on here. Let me find it. But it, there we go. This is the item description of Ludwig's rifle. Ludwig's rifle exhibits several departures from the workshop's design, suggesting that the church anticipated much larger inhuman beasts.
Well, and that makes sense because I don't remember where it's from, but where it talks about the most holy clerics becoming the most fearsome of beasts.
Yes. Obviously, Cleric Beast being the first optional boss of the game.
Yeah.
Right. I killed him.
Yeah, most people did. I don't
I
think.
didn't know that was optional.
Yeah.
I knew afterwards.
but
obviously.
how
Yeah.
It's like
irritating-
dead ends.
It is really irritating when you're like, yeah, I beat the boss. Now I can go back to the 100.
Yeah.
Back to Yharnam.
Yeah.
Because it's just this dead end thing, and I'm like, surely I'll come
thought
back
that
through
was-
here at some point
Yeah.
because like there's a gate and you can see an alleyway back there, and we never came back to it.
Yeah, and there's been suspicions that they might the dead end where you're going through Cathedral Ward, and there's right outside the gate of not the gate, but right when you're in Cathedral Ward,
Where you go down the stairs, there's
down
the
the
open
stairs.
area, and then you go through all that thing.
Yeah, there's the trap where you see one of the big hulking guys with the stone, but then a guy with the tree trunk's walking this way and you're not paying attention. You go down that way and you see the giant with the ball and chain. There's a door at the end of there that I believe you may be able to click on, but it won't open, and it just leads to that dead end. And people have theorized that they've plotted out the map and they've seen that there could easily be a direct link between there and then the end of the bridge where you fought Cleric Beast.
Ooh.
So they might have just cut that alleyway out for maybe gameplay reasons.
That would be interesting. Mm-hmm. Should be a fun loop. I liked that particular area because like one of the things that I really get a kick out of is just taking the binocular and just looking at stuff.
Yeah.
I'm
You
so
do
glad
that a
that
lot.
stayed.
Yeah.
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 But like that was something that they had in Dark Souls 2 as well. The binoculars was like one of the first items you could get.
Yep, Dark
And
Souls 1 as well.
I just love looking at stuff. It's
Yeah.
so fun.
I wonder if that gate is going to have to do with the old hunters.
Could be.
'cause
Although I would, from what I understand, Old Hunters is just going to be going to like a new
area.
in the past, very similar to Artorias of the Abyss DLC from Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I mean, they might add stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but we'll definitely get to use that new spinny blade thing and just anywhere, and it's going to be the best. It's going to be the best.
Yeah. And also this morning, they actually announced the Old Hunter's Guide, which is going to be a 200-page hardcover book, and it's going to be like I think it's $25 or something. Yeah. I'll be buying the crap out of that.
Yep.
And
Buy it so hard.
EMB's working on it again, and yeah, that's going to be fun. Yeah.
I think it's so cool that he's working on that. That he worked on this one and that he's working on the other one.
EMB.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about his story is that he came into that kind of the same way that Colin from IGN came into video game writing.
Yeah.
He was doing it for free.
Yeah.
And then people were like, "You're good at
Good at this. Yeah.
Would you like to do it for pay?"
Yep.
Yes.
And like that's one of the most awesome ways to get a job.
No, it is. It really is.
I've never gotten a job that way, but yeah. Okay, so I was having difficulty putting Cainhurst into the timeline because
I believe I'm not sure if it helps with the timeline. Let me see if I have a quote. I remember reading something.
okay,
but
while he's doing that, the Executioner's Garb, which is what then not martyr Logarius and his followers wore, was the Executioner's Garb. And in the item description of the Executioner's Garb, it says that the garb, quote, became basis of the future church clothes. That shows that the Executioner's was one of the very earliest designs.
Yeah.
And it brings up where did that, like, I feel like theory again. But when they started to look into blood rituals and all that, then there was a group, the Vile Bloods, who went, okay, so we can get some things from blood. What if everything was all blood and we just and an approach that was too extreme even for the then burgeoning church that is all about blood.
Yeah.
And because theirs was more a focus of consolidation of power. Because they wanted to control the blood and make sure that it was used in these proper ways. And so the Vile Bloods became the heretics of that time.
It seems because the Bloodborne being a horror game and being FromSoft's real first horror game, they wanted to like attack all horror tropes at the same time.
Yeah.
Obviously, the very first one you're introduced to is werewolves.
Yes.
And then it leads you into like witches. And then to, I guess, like weird snake rituals. And then Cainhurst is...
Snakes tie into voodoo.
Okay, that works. But then Cainhurst is their address to vampires, who, in the context of this blood...
And gargoyles.
That too, there are gargoyles there as well.
I also missed this section.
Love those.
Yeah. You missed all of Cainhurst?
I missed all of Cainhurst.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Cainhurst is so fun.
Yeah.
If you don't go back and get on the
carriage.
get on the carriage, then you just
The ghost carriage.
Yeah.
never happened. Like I never. Yeah. So I'm gonna be doing that in New Game Plus.
Of course. But a lot of they're not quite as on the nose about them being vampires, but the imagery and a lot of the item descriptions talk about how they like reveled in using blood, whereas. Like in the Threaded Cane item description, it talks about how
Elevating themselves,
and like by having their weapon go from like a chained whip back to just a cane, it kind of like hides the bloody act that they commit from themselves. Whereas that might be the point of contention where the people that ended up branching off and becoming Cainhurst, the Vile Bloods, they really kind of looked at the blood almost like alcohol.
to embrace it.
Yeah, they embraced.
Although the former is more intoxicating.
Well, the former to alcohol.
Right.
Yes. And that might have been the point of conditions that the church wanted to stay reserved, or at least the fanatical members of the church, or maybe the less fanatical. I have a theory that the leadership of the church was very deceptive to the inhabitants of Yharnam and even
unquestionably.
Yeah, and even their own people. I think Ludwig. I'm not sure if he was in on it. I think the fact that he was anticipating larger beasts and then created the larger weapons might hint to the fact that he was in on it as well.
Maybe we'll find out.
I think it's a risk reward thing. I think he knew, but it was like, okay, but is it worth it to keep going?
That segues well back onto the topic we're trying to talk about. Because I have the Scourge, which originally was just a limited thing. Because they developed this kind of miracle cure that was like the blood, which is there anyone that disputes that that's menstrual blood?
I don't know if it's legit. I mean, not that it couldn't be legit. I have a very similar sense to Ian B when he put out his video on it, is that it certainly could be.
Yeah.
But I think there are only even certain cases where there's even a precedence for that. So, I mean, it could be when you're obviously all blood is important. It's not just menstrual blood. Like the fact that when you're killing things, the blood is spurting out and you're like absorbing it, and that's what's regaining your health. I think that's proof that that all blood
have to be.
Yeah,
All blood is not menstrual blood.
Yeah, all blood is not menstrual blood, but then
Otherwise,
all
how
blood.
could pregnant women give you their blood?
They
Well,
don't.
they don't. Because when Ariana
when-
gets pregnant, when she starts first having the signs of sickness, she stops giving you her blood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is one of the. But what I'm saying is not necessarily that all the blood, like all the blood in the vials or whatever. I'm talking about the blood that the church is using. The specific what they're pushing as the cure, because
Well, isn't that the blood from Ebrietas, the Great One? And in that case, even though she's probably female, if there's even a female analog with the Great Ones, I don't know if the Great Ones are even privy to like menstruation. They could be.
I don't.
well we
I don't
know
if
that
that's how they like procreate. I mean, I don't think. They
Well,
procreate
well,
the way we do.
they do have children, but they always lose them, which is interesting because they can have kids, but then every time they do, they just die.
Yeah.
Right. And then of course, they seek a surrogate, as we know from the umbilical cords.
Which
Well, and the umbilical cords also indicate that their method of procreation is at least in some ways similar to ours.
Sure. Yeah. But unless I don't know. It could be Ebrietas's menstrual blood, but it could just be her blood. So people have talked about how her face is kind of in flaps, and you see a whole bunch of things in it.
Yep.
Probably the most disturbingly designed boss in the game.
I don't know, the bloodstained beast with the flapping vagina poison lips.
Yeah, both of the vagina-looking bosses are pretty disturbing, which says a lot.
Fighting vaginas is not something that I'm really
No. That is old
about.
school. What was it, Mother from Nintendo?
Yes.
Yeah. But
So when did Ariana get pregnant then? If that was her.
the theory is that they talk about how formless Odin.
Yeah.
The idea is that even though it's his tomb, that he's not actually dead, because right after you kill Rom and the world goes through that shift, that's when she stops giving you blood.
Yeah.
And she just gets pregnant out of nowhere. And
it's not out of nowhere. It's because the moon presence was summoned and came into that world more, because from then on, whenever you can see the moon, then that's when you can hear the baby crying.
Yes. And the reason why you can hear the baby crying, well, it is probably the idea is that Udin impregnated Queen Yharnam, and then her child Murgo is a child of his, which is why you can't, when you're fighting Murgo's wet nurse and there's the carriage there, the crib, there's no baby actually there, and that also explains why you can hear the cries like basically everywhere in the game, because
because the baby
baby is formless just like Udin was.
Okay.
Yeah. But then for some reason, the child he has with Ariana doesn't work out. But it actually says when you get the umbilical cord from Ariana, actually I have the quote on here, but it specifically mentions that he almost explicitly says that Udin impregnated her. Where is that?
I knew that he impregnated her, but I guess because he's formless, I didn't take that into account because I thought like he actually
came down without her knowing somehow.
Maybe she knew and she just didn't want to say. I mean, she does do things for money.
Yeah, and there's an interesting line
He paid her a lot.
There's an interesting line that attributes some more history to Ariana. It says, "Every girl loses a child and then yearns for a surrogate, and Udin, the formless Great One, is no different. To think it was corrupted blood that began this eldritch liaison. Where else does corrupted blood occur?"
Go ahead.
Vile bloods. And
she wears the noble dress from Cainhurst, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and it mentions in Ariana's vile blood that she has, that people, if an old church member had tasted her blood, they would recognize that this is a special strain. The idea is that she is somehow a descendant of the vile bloods, which is sort of hinted to, I think, with the numbing mist that you find. That you could potentially find before you fight Vicar Amelia. There's that one gate up the stairs that you can't get through until you get around the other side.
Right.
And the numbing mist, it specifically says that the numbing mist is a formula that only the vile bloods know, and they keep it very secretive. Like only the upper echelons of the vile bloods know the formula, and they don't even tell their servants. And the fact that you find numbing mist in Cathedral Ward just kind of randomly when vile bloods aren't supposed to be in Cathedral Ward is probably, I think it's this hint that even though they're not supposed, that the vile bloods seem to be secluded in Cainhurst, there are still some remnants of them.
Connections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing, I want to get just like some of my some of the ideas that all my quotes support down first so that we make sure we address them.
Sure.
The ritual of blood, when all is melted in blood, all is reborn. The last time we saw reborn was the one reborn. I'm not sure. I think that means maybe something that we've already kind of suspected is that the people in Yahar'gul, because we know that Yahar'gul was a separate section of the church, but they were not like... they did not leave the church. The School of Mensis worked in tandem with the choir.
Up to a point.
I didn't see, when was the schism for that?
Yeah, because I've some of the text talks about how they both work in tandem, and I believe that what they're all trying to approach the same goals.
Yeah.
And I think what my suspicion is that being how as deceptive as the hierarchy of the healing church is, I believe that they founded the healing church, but then they told the School of Mensis to go below where no one's looking. That's why they have Yahar'gul kind of sealed off, where they can do the bloodier part of their experiments. And I think that's
that's School of Mensis and Yahar'gul is the last on the on the.
And
then
and then there's the quote from the Sage's Wrist: "A body part of a saint sacrificed by the healing church in their search for truth."
Yep.
I think that's another hint to how deceptive the church is, because obviously, what's the name of the holy girl that you bring back to Cathedral Ward? The one who's envious of Ariana. Adela,
yeah,
right?
Adela,
yeah. I think obviously...
I always want to call her Adele.
Just Adele?
Yeah.
Yep. Do a James Bond movie. But yeah, I think obviously she's probably not one of the saints so that she can be sacrificed. I think that's part of the job she didn't know she signed in for.
Yeah.
Who are the messengers? Obviously, big question. I think there's a correlation between obviously Solaire and Alfred from Dark Souls to Bloodborne, and I think there's also a correlation between Sigmire and Eileen. And I'll talk more about that.
Okay.
I already talked about the fuel for the church versus Cainhurst with the threaded cane thing, Ludwig's rifle, Black Church attire, how they dispose of victims even before they get sick at all. Yeah, I think that I think that the sickness was implanted just an excuse so that the church can go out and just kill people and get their blood, get their blood, for their their purposes. Sure. The doll attire is something interesting. Obviously, the carrot was kept to borderlines on Mania. The foreign garb, my theory about how every single plane of existence is a dream, including you don't wake up in Yharnam, that's a dream. The world you run in is a dream. Everything's a dream.
It makes sense.
Yeah, because I was telling. Remember when Mikolash, when you kill him, he says, "No, I'm going to forget everything when I wake up." First of all, when Gehrman executes you, if you take the first ending, he says you'll forget the dream. And at the same time, when the foreign garb, the starting gear you start out with, it says you have no memory of where you came from.
Yeah.
So for some reason, there are certain transitions between worlds when if you transition one way between a world, you'll forget the past. So I think that every time you have to warp to somewhere, you're warping to another. You're not teleporting. You're warping to another dimension, basically another dream world.
Okay.
And that every reality is a dream world rather than one being real.
Yeah.
Okay, you're wrong.
I am wrong.
Okay. In the interview, he says they're talking about dreams and how it allows you to do whatever you want with the game or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it says, I think you're absolutely right. It would be no fun if you could just do whatever you wanted in dreams. So in this game, the setting of Yharnam is essentially based in reality.
Essentially.
It's so dark and dismal that it is entirely possible to interpret it as an actual nightmare in the end, but this isn't some kind of dream world where anything you can picture would come to life.
But that doesn't mean that it's not a dream world. It just means it's not a dream world where anything can come to life.
Okay. Yeah. I take that to mean that in Miyazaki's interpretation, that Yharnam is a place.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So,
perhaps the Yharnam that you wake up to is not a real place.
Well, when
Yharnam existed, it's just, did it exist in this form? Is this a dream state version? Just like the Hunter's Dream. The Hunter's Dream is a place that exists.
Right. The original church workshop was a physical place in Cathedral Ward.
Yeah.
Which,
Although-
thank God you showed me that. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
Oh,
that-
yeah.
I really would have missed that.
Although, yeah, I
tripped
suppose
me out.
when Mikolash dies, we know that he's in a nightmare, and when he's dying, I'm gonna forget everything when he wakes up. So you could say that he's waking up back in the real world, and therefore, if Gehrman kills you and you forget, the place that you forget was the dream, which means that you might be waking up in the real world.
Okay, I think that's the case because I think only hunters have the basis of the hunter's dream from which to continue to project themselves, and that's why when Mikolash dies in the dream, he gets kicked out of the whole thing.
So, like hunters are uniquely able to persist between the dream worlds, whereas other people are kind of like asleep when they go to these dream places.
Because they're tied to the hunter's dream.
Yeah, because it talks about how like being tethered to the hunter's dream is what keeps you persisting beyond death. Like both Eileen and Jura make comments about how they used to
don't
dream
anymore.
but they don't anymore. Yeah,
Right, and when they die, they're dead.
Done.
Yeah, and they die. Well, actually, I don't think Eileen actually died because
In your version, my version, she's
yeah, 'cause
well,
we-
yes.
because we have Eileen as one of the mysteries because he told me some really interesting stuff
yeah.
about that. Okay, so church is founded, Healing Church Workshop,
Okay, well,
Cainhurst thing,
we're back.
and we're back.
Yeah,
And so they started to kind of build their power with we've got this blood and it'll heal you and all this kind of stuff. But then I think that that it started to transform people into beasts. And you were saying there's some interpretation there and there's a bit of leeway, but that makes sense based on what we know of the world and how things worked. And so I think at first the Scourge was a very limited thing that they were able to kind of keep a cap on until it evolved. I think that the Scourge evolves into a sickness of ashen blood. You either become beastly or you get just horrifyingly sick because the ashen blood is more of a disease without any benefits. That's no fun.
Diseases
So,
need benefits.
but then the treatment for ashen blood, it says the treatment for ashen blood actually leads to the expansion of the beastly scourge.
small medicinal tablets that counteract poison, used to treat ashen blood, the baffling sickness that ravaged old Yharnam long ago. These tablets only provide short-term relief. The ashen blood ailment eventually triggered the spread of the beastly scourge. So they're not saying that the treatment of ashen blood is what triggered it. They're saying that ashen blood just went crazy and became the scourge.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Because the ashen blood ailment is what triggered the spread of the beastly scourge, not the cure, the ailment.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, the ashen blood was the progenitor of the scourge.
Well, okay, so that actually does kind of tie into what I was saying because the beastly scourge is limited or whatever, and then ashen blood was a disease that you didn't necessarily have to accept the church's treatment, and at that point they couldn't hide it anymore, which led to it spreading airborne or whatever.
Yeah.
And so
I suppose old Yharnam probably drank blood just as much as new Yharnam did. So, they could have all, it may have been airborne, but they also could have all caught it through the blood without really, understanding that the blood is what's spreading it.
Right. Okay, so I think, and this is a bit more of kind of wavy lines. I think that this is how it goes, and the church is experimenting and everything. I think that the first hunt doesn't start until capital H doesn't start until ashen blood and the spread of the scourge.
Sure.
And then I think that the burning of old Yharnam is at the conclusion of the first hunt.
Yeah, it was when they realized that running around and just trying to kill everyone that's sick when everyone's sick is just not going to work. So they just, did Hail Mary and just burned everything.
They sealed the bridge and burned it all.
Yeah.
And the other thing that indicates that the correlation between the burning of old Yharnam and the spread of ashen blood is that the vast majority of enemies in old Yharnam are listed in the book as patients. The female patients, the male patients, the beast patient. That's mostly what you're fighting down there.
Yeah.
Which to me says this is where this was their hospital area, and this was where they were trying to contain it, and they were okay, can't contain it, seal the bridge, burn it all.
Yeah.
Burn everything.
Burn it all.
And I think that the powder kegs were were formed in Old Yharnam, exclusively in Old Yharnam, because everything from the powder kegs, Jura, and all the weapons that are from there, all of that stuff is specifically and only based in Old Yharnam. Mm-hmm. Like the badges, the weapons, all of that stuff only comes from Old Yharnam.
Although
And so,
you do see it outside of Old Yharnam. The two hunters that you fight on your way to the secondary entrance to Yahar'gul with the big the amygdala that's above the door, and there's the basin in the room where you wake up after killing Rom, right?
Yeah.
You fight two hunters, and I believe they're both supposed to be powder keg hunters. Because I think one of them had, I forget what it was.
I remember fighting one with a tiny nitrous. I don't remember.
I don't think there was
powder keg weapons.
That's true. I thought there was, maybe not. I thought one of them had the gun on the arm.
That could be a hole in my theory. But
I don't know if it was the
one that Jura used.
No, I thought it was a pistol. Maybe I'm mistaken.
Stake driver.
Stake driver. Yeah, I thought one of them wielded a stake driver. I may be wrong about that.
We can check that later, and I'll tweet it. Follow me on Twitter.
Yeah.
But so the other thing about the powder kegs is that theirs is based on, like, it's not based on blood, it's not based on marks, it's not based on inside, it's just blow it up. Blow it up. And I love one of my favorite item descriptions is the powder kegs, bless their hearts, have a motto. I love that. That is just so wonderful.
Although this is where we have to differentiate whether this is a gameplay consideration or a lore consideration, because the powder keg weapons that go boom are all fueled by quicksilver bullets, which are intrinsically laced with blood.
Yeah.
So perhaps maybe they utilize the bullets just to, you can put a limitation on those kinds of weapons. It's just that's how your gun weapons always work.
I think that's a gameplay thing. I don't think we can necessarily attribute that to lore, because
the flamethrower.
The flamethrower.
That uses bullets too, which makes absolutely zero sense.
And the healing mist.
Yeah.
The healing mist.
Not healing.
The numbing mist.
The rosemary.
Or the rosemarinus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
One of those things.
But yeah, it's another thing that just sprays out things, and arias are heard, and it's like to introduce multiple.
I didn't get that.
Sources. It's a weapon. I forget where you get it, but
Cainhurst. Probably.
No. It was toward
I
the
missed
end.
so much.
Okay, so
you missed. Because what is it? I think the stake driver or the rifle spear are like a primitive imitation of another weapon that you find in Cainhurst.
Oh, okay.
And they're the only the rider splash, which is basically a it's like a. The sword that, like, the Three Musketeers used, like the really thin one,
rapier.
Yeah, rapier. Yeah, it basically the rider splash is basically just a rapier with a gun on it.
So, is it strength based or is it?
That's I almost assuredly that's dex based.
Okay.
Or skill based.
Okay, I was gonna say, because there are a lot of weapons that I didn't get a chance to use because I went skill based. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of, like, really big, heavy weapons and stuff that. What do we got?
The Yargul Hunter and his tenacious wheeling partner guard the path to the village from Cathedral Ward. He's using the rifle spear and Ludwig's rifle.
Okay, so not using those weapons. Okay, so I take that back. There were absolutely no powder keg hunters outside of Old Yharnam. Fact. Heard it first here.
If you're getting your news first from us, you're doing the internet wrong.
Of course. And I was supposed at the end of this video, we'll probably just redirect you to all of our sources. You can watch them instead. Or as well, because we already got you if you're at the end of the video.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that the choir was founded after the burning of Old Yharnam, because that's when they started to seclude themselves and do that.
The choir specifically, that higher part of the church?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, the upper cathedral ward and all that.
Not that the church didn't have a choir of a different sort before that.
I don't know, did they?
I don't know.
You don't see any choir, like any like a choir pit.
No, you don't.
Is there even?
Joking.
Yeah, because in the place of an organ, they have the giant statue of an amygdala pouring forth its blood.
Yeah. They don't even have any music there.
Although, how do we know for sure that the choir was not created with the founding of the Healing Church?
I don't.
Okay.
And that's why I'm trying to specify this is what I think maybe.
Okay. Sure.
So they actually do kind of explain how quicksilver bullets are used for the Rosmarinus.
Okay.
A special weapon used by the choir, high-ranking members of the Healing Church, sprays a cloud of sacred mist created by using blood-imbued silver bullets as a special medium. Arias are heard whenever the sacred mist is seen, proving that the mist is a heavenly blessing. Quote, "O fair maiden, why is it that you weep?" End quote. So
that's less of an exclamation and more of just it uses bullets somehow.
yeah, it grinds them up, spits them out.
Yeah, just
It still makes
People
no sense.
people sing.
yeah,
It's magical.
It still makes
Damn
no
it.
sense.
yeah.
Okay, so
So now I know that cussing's okay. Got it. Although I may have cussed already in this video, I don't know.
We
if
mentioned
we don't
cursing
expect
and-
like 7-year-olds to be watching Bloodborne.
I don't know.
if-
People get into these games really young.
Yeah. My nephew watched a couple of our videos. So.
Okay,
Oh wow! How young is your nephew?
8.
So
Well,
this
I
one
had-
he can't watch.
I
we
had-
talk about vaginas, and we talk about.
He's gonna have to learn about them someday.
That's
Might as
true.
well learn about them through the horrifying.
No. We don't want anyone to be educated about vaginas through Bloodborne. I actually had the girls watched.
The vaginas in Bloodborne?
No, they
Well, there are no literal vaginas.
Not
in Bloodborne.
literally,
There's
but
just blood-starved beasts.
Yeah.
and there's blood
is-
from vagina. Anyway,
Yes.
But yeah, they watched
implied.
Demon Souls and Dark Souls 2 with me because the vast majority of those are inhuman or zombie beasts, and that was okay. But like, I feel like Bloodborne kind of took a different route, and it's deliberately meant to be horror.
Yeah, they're too young for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can explain that, you know, these are, you know, the undead.
Yeah.
That's a thing. But this is, you know, I try not to have them see humans versus humans violence. Like they don't watch shooting games and stuff like that. And this has a lot of instances where scary humans, you know, you've got Gascoigne, you've got the other hunters that are coming at you in various phases, and then some of the stuff in here is supposed to be scary as hell.
Just the straight up Yharnam mobs trying to kill you with pitchforks, and you're shooting them and stabbing them, and
Just so you didn't know, Dark Souls was not about horror. They weren't even trying to do horror in that game. Remember the catacombs? Dear God.
yeah.
So
Speaking of that, I think I'm gonna get that on PS4. It just looks really good.
Is the original Dark Souls?
No, sorry, Dark Souls 2.
Okay.
Yeah, if you've
Scholar
seen,
of the First Sin.
if you've seen how beautiful that looks on
Okay.
PS4.
Yeah.
really is.
I might pick up Dark Souls 2 at some point, but maybe while we're waiting for Dark Souls 3. I don't know.
Possibly. Well, you're gonna
that's,
get
that's
that.
only in like March or something, right? February or March?
Yeah.
It's not that
Is it
far.
really coming out that
Yes.
soon?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yes, it's coming out crazy soon.
Yeah.
I'm just having trouble. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to do this and
I don't have a
Fallout.
countdown for that one.
So
Yeah. That had me worried that Dark Souls 3 is coming out so soon.
has me really worried.
But the saving grace is that, like, because the reason why I just kind of skipped Dark Souls 2 and Demon Souls, because that was old enough I hadn't done it. Even though you gave me your copy of the game.
did everything
And
I could.
I have not played it yet. I jumped on Dark Souls first.
Yeah.
And the reason I skipped 2 was because I heard that it seemed like without Miyazaki being on the game, it seemed like it was more of like, if you want more Dark Souls, here's more Dark Souls.
yeah,
Yeah.
not made by him, and the
Yeah,
level design is so different.
There's a part where you're fighting through some mines, and then you get to a windmill, and then you get into an elevator at the back of the windmill. You go up, and it opens on like lava pits.
Yeah,
and a giant, and
yeah.
I'm like,
Why is there
no,
lava?
that's
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but
just the kind of nesting design that Miyazaki does was
Yeah.
not really in that game as much. Where the whole, like, you go through this whole area and then you open up a door and holy crap, I'm back where I was earlier. That opened up a shortcut.
The first time that happens, and you're back to Firelink Shrine, like that first enormous loop,
Yeah.
and you feel like you've been going forever,
Yeah.
and then, but it like that is a very specific thing that he does so well, and I've
the levels
never,
are just nested within each other.
Yeah.
And
And that's what gives me hope for Dark Souls 3 is that he's back on lead for that. They're not doing Dark Souls 2 again, basically. At least fingers crossed.
Okay, so the last two on the timeline is the founding of the choir and the School of Mensis in Yahar'gul, and how all that goes. This is another one of those nebulous. Then these things happen.
Yeah,
At some
somewhere
point,
around there.
Yeah, because I feel like the School of Mensis is associated with the church, but I feel like it's also kind of an offshoot because they're not doing blood experimentation. They're looking to elevate themselves, going back to the teachings of Willem in a lot of ways.
Correct.
Loki.
Oh,
No, don't worry about it.
wild cat attack.
I mean, Portillo is part of the reason that Kind of Funny is so popular. So
Yep. But Portillo's Portillo. That's just a cat named Loki.
well, and
Who's adorable.
Portillo also just kind of sits there, and Loki's going to be doing stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Loki is very disruptive.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
Just like his namesake.
yeah.
which
That-
is why
that
he
cat.
has that name.
Yeah.
Just fucking shit up.
He is. He
Okay,
does.
so I was telling you about Yosefka crossed out, and then real Yosefka, and then how that all comes about. She's wearing choir garb, and I've forgotten about that. So, and this will also we can do Yosefka last because that segues into the first big mystery for me.
Okay.
What happened in Yahargul? Because you've got the up on the wall, and like that was some like really disturbing stuff in a game about disturbing stuff.
Yeah. My theory, and I've talked about this in I don't know if this part's gonna be cut out or not, but my theory is that while the church was basically they shifted their role to being the power class, they're the ones that are going to run Yharnam, and then when they created the School of Mensis, they wanted them to go kind of below into Yahargul where people wouldn't be looking. That's why they sealed it off.
But we've talked about this was their secret. This was whatever. So why were there civvies there?
Because the cities were stolen by the snappers.
The kidnappers. Okay.
My theory is that with the realization that blood is power, and it basically Willem wanted to. All humans in this game, everyone in power is trying to ascend to become a great one themselves.
Yeah,
I did.
Willem wanted to do that through eyes because he feared blood, but the church was all about blood.
And I think becoming a leech, or whatever the heck that was.
Yeah. So my theory is that the School of Mensis, knowing that blood is power, and knowing that if they could find an excuse to just kill people and take their blood, they would use that.
Yeah.
My theory is that the Snatchers would steal people for their blood, take them down to Yahargul, and then the ritual blood mentioned that when all is melted in blood, all is reborn.
Right.
So I think what they did is they basically just pool everyone's blood together to try and create the one reborn.
We made a thing.
We made a thing, and it's alive.
Maybe.
Which that like there's a lot of areas that I really enjoy the art direction. But
yes.
the One Reborn intro is one of the most stunning pieces of just cutscene beauty.
Yeah.
And like the boss itself was interesting.
Yeah.
But but that intro where you look up and you've got the ringing, and then the moon is obscured, and then the cosmic behind that, and from that comes and is just
and the
masterpiece.
the intro the introductory area leading up to his boss fight arena, where you've got all of these different, these giant statue things that come to life, lurching at you and shooting things at you. So I don't know how everyone would play the game, but when I got to that area, and I know you did this too, you just kind of burst through and run.
Yeah.
But if you actually look at the walls, you're seeing like bodies of people are like melted into the walls of the place.
That.
Yes, like
Yeah,
it's
that
everywhere.
was what I was talking about. That's the civilians that I'm talking about. Because I get the kidnapping and the sacrificing to do the One Reborn, but like if you look at the walls of the city, they're like people. They look like they're trying to climb out of a pit or something.
Yeah.
And some of them are like halfway through the wall, and it's
I think there's one specific wall where there's like a mound of people that are all melted straight into the wall.
okay. Well, if you jump back to the One Reborn's lantern and just go back, not necessarily far enough to trigger any of the caskets or whatever, but that's where that wall is one of the first walls that you see out there.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
Yahargul is probably the most mysterious and most disturbing place in this whole game. Like just like the chanting music.
Yeah.
That's and like obviously it's the way it's written is obviously creepy, but the fact that it's like people singing and that's the only instrumentation in all of the music, it feels like there's a choir somewhere around you that knows you're there and is singing to you, or like you're hearing them in the distance somewhere very near.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Felt like I was a sacrifice at that point.
Yeah.
well, like it kind of goes back to it's like the mom's not gonna watch this, Like my mom and some people like her that are like the rapturous singing of being absorbed in and just being so deep in their religious experience that it causes them to burst into song.
Yeah.
And with her, it's weird. Here, it's creepy as fuck. And it's just, So, and then Yosefka, member of the choir, and knowledgeable about way more than she lets on. And I really wish she'd talked to us more before she got replaced by who? And this is kind of the first mystery is Yosefka.
Yeah.
Yosefka, the original Yosefka, I feel is a fairly nondescript. Like there's not a whole lot about her. So the discussion is going to be about her replacement.
Yeah. And here's a quick question: do we know that the Yosefka that the original one was wearing church garb before she was possessed?
Yes, I checked that on my New Game Plus because I don't have New Yosefka yet.
Okay.
And it's the same clothing. The only difference in attire that you can see through that little bitty hole.
Okay. So perhaps whoever like possessed her is like maybe perhaps another.
No, they didn't possess her. They
well, not possessed, but yeah, like they killed her and then just took her form.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess that's the question. Who was it that took her form? Who can just transform like that?
I missed a lot of this because I killed people.
Yes, you did. Okay. When you saw Yosefka through the door, did you just like slash through the door? Because you can do that.
Yeah, you can.
You can do that?
Yeah, if it won't kill her, but because you can't do damage, but she'll get mad at you, and eventually she just stops talking to you.
What are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're better than a beast.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
You can do that. You can do that to is it not Willem? The guy in the window, like the first NPC you can talk to in the window at the first lantern.
Yeah.
The one
that gives you
Gilbert.
Yeah, Gilbert. Yeah. If you hit his window, he gets mad at you for attacking him.
Yeah, and I actually did that last night. I hadn't played in a while, and so I was trying to remember all the controls and stuff. And so I'm like standing at the central, and I'm like swinging everything, and then I fire a shot, and Gilbert's like, "Hey," Gilbert's like, "Hey, is something wrong?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, I'm just shooting at your house. Don't worry about it."
But he can't hear you.
No, not anymore.
No.
Okay, and then
that's
okay.
I just realized how morbid that was.
Oh, I was gonna say that's what I saw of her, and then I killed her.
Yeah.
Did you never talk to her first?
I talked to her a little bit.
Yeah, but like you remember how hard it is to position it where you like it's really hard to get a view of her. Like you have to have the binocular be like right up on the door and angle it in a certain way, and you can see like her arm.
I'm not even 100% that they intended for you to be able to see that. I mean, possibly.
Well,
there wouldn't be much use for like changing, like giving her the weapon after she changes to
so
posture.
The fact that they do actually change things there indicates that you are supposed to.
Sure.
That they at least.
It's just changed because I missed some of this.
So originally Yosefka, when you first talk to her, she says, "Unfortunately, I can't open the door for you. I can't let anyone in."
Yeah.
And then as soon as she changes, she says, "Hey, if you find someone out there, go ahead and send them my way. I'm going to do everything in my power to heal them. We shouldn't fear these beasts at all." And if you look through the window, you can get a glimpse of her hand, and she's holding a weapon. Where she previous Yosefka was not.
Okay.
It's also a different actress, which
the voice is
I
completely
didn't
different.
catch that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little.
That's because we hear all women the same.
Subtle stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
although Eileen has that distinctive voice, she sounds like she's a character on Downton Abbey.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
I love Eileen.
She's great.
Okay. So, do we feel that fake Yosefka is from the church?
This it sounds like it could have been like another church member that killed Yosefka. We don't really get a good glimpse at Yosefka's face. She may have killed Yosefka, but she may not have taken on her form. She may have just replaced herself at the door because you don't know what she really looks like. You're not supposed to.
I got you clothes.
Yeah.
You also find there's a celestial being inside that drop Yosefka's blood.
Yeah, and
which you don't get from fake Yosefka.
Yes, and if you send people to the clinic rather than Odin Chapel, they every time
they-
you send someone there, there's a version of them that's a celestial emissary. Like if you send the afflicted beggar, the cannibal who's eating, if you send him there, you'll see a celestial emissary that's bent over and like eating something on the ground. Or if you send send the little girl, there's another one that drops her ribbon, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't send anyone there because I didn't want
Yeah. Okay, so
these are mysteries that you can't possibly know what the right answer is.
Yeah, someone didn't spoil that part. They were like, don't send people there. Okay.
And so there's not a whole lot of information here, but what is her relationship to the celestial beings? Because they exist in like one or two other areas, but she's creating them. Is she transferring consciousness into them?
It seems like they grow in like that field where you fight the celestial emissary of the boss, but at the same time they pop up in the Forbidden Woods in the stream. Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. Okay.
And then
I was confused by that. I was trying to figure out what the link there was.
Yeah, because like it's just this one little spot.
Yeah. We do see the body of a celestial emissary like on the operating table, so it might be that she's involved with it. Even Imposter Stuff is involved with the choir. She may be like funneling bodies back to there, and she's just taking people's minds out and implanting them in the celestial emissary bodies.
Right.
Perhaps that's her. The church is allowing her to experiment by moving your conscience into a celestial emissary. Maybe that's your way of ascension.
The reason that I think that she's transforming them into celestial beings rather than transferring their consciousness is the fact that they're all aggressive. And not like if you send the little girl and the crazy lady and like all of these people, you send them there, then the celestial beings that then drop their items are all aggressive.
Yeah, they wouldn't pick up their items like from their own corpses or whatever. Right. They would have them on them if they were transformed.
Right. Yeah. And no, actually I'm arguing the other side. If this was just a transference of this little girl's consciousness into a celestial being, why would that make her aggro? So I think that she's transforming them into. Well,
that's what I just said. Is that I agree with your evidence that they're transforming, not being transferred.
That's right. We can even argue when we agree.
Exactly. I love that.
Okay, so fake Yuseka, we don't know what to find.
Yeah, they're still not really an origin story to that character.
Glad
just assumptions. Yeah.
Okay. Pale Blood. What is it?
That is a really good question because the only time that there's the Pale Blood Moon. And
Behold the Pale Blood Sky.
Behold the Pale Blood Sky, yes. But then the only other times there are some instances where you can see literal pale blood, and the only times we see them are the little cosmic children, like the one that Ariana gives birth to, and the ones you see the slug people on the ground when you get into Upper Cathedral Ward. Yeah. And then if you hit the doll, she bleeds pale blood, not regular blood.
And I cannot wait to argue with you where you were saying that the doll is not as big a mystery as people think.
Yeah, I
do
think there's a lot of ambiguity to the character, but I'm not convinced that she's like a key to unraveling the mystery of Bloodborne. I think it's ambiguous how or why she was created, because obviously there's some evidence that like the doll is something that Gehrman really loved because he left the doll back. Or it
is a surrogate for the doll that he left back at the old workshop.
Yes, we don't know if the doll
not even necessarily left because he's trapped in the dream.
Yes, so left when he was taken, I suppose. But so we don't know.
You can't take it with you.
Yeah, we don't know 100% that the doll is his, but we know that from one of the items that let you like use a Great One's powers, like I think maybe Augur Vibriatus, it says that they're sympathetic and will often call upon. They'll often respond when you call upon them. It might be that the moon presence kind of kidnaps Gehrman, makes him the host of the dream, and starts perpetuating, all the hunter dream and whatnot. And then he sees or hears, Gehrman, crying in his sleep, basically, that, he wants to get out of here. Yeah. And perhaps he takes pity on him and gives life to the doll back from the old workshop because he knows he loved that doll back then. And then perhaps it's because the moon presence made the doll, that's why it bleeds pale blood, because it's made directly by the moon presence.
That also does kind of align with one of the creepier statements in the entire game. You can use whatever you wish. Even the doll.
should it please you.
Although
Yeah.
that's
Like
the one line that throws me off, because if Gehrman really loved that doll in a kind of possessive way, he would not be so inviting and suggestive towards his own favorite person / thing.
But it also represents the moon presence's influence and hold on him.
It also could.
If our theory about the moon presence giving the doll life is true, and that's where I think that comes from.
Yeah.
Is like, I had this thing, and he created it with great care and everything, but then the moon presence like corrupts it by giving it life.
Maybe it also could be because I know Ian B loves to talk about how FromSoft has an unrecognized or unappreciated sense of humor, like with the Pinwheel boss in Dark Souls.
Yep.
And it could be that the line he says there is not meant to infer that he sexually uses the doll and is implying that you could use it too. Perhaps the line was just written that way, like he says it creepily when he's actually referring to using blood echoes to level up.
Yeah.
But it's as a joke. It's meant to sound like he's inferring what he's not.
That's kind of what I got out of it. I didn't think he was actually...
Yeah, and that would explain why that kind of throws off the idea that he kind of loved the doll. Maybe because that's supposed to be that's a gag. That's not really meant to be interpreted like how he feels about the doll.
And then the last aspect of the doll is why does she think that you are her maker?
When does she assert that?
Do the gods not love their creations? Of course I love you. Isn't that the way you've made me?
I think she may be referring to humanity in general rather than you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Like, because she is aware that she is a creation. And
Right.
she assumes that her creators were humans. It could be she's referring to the fact that when she was a doll, obviously created by a human, and she was just given life by the moon presence. She might not even be aware of that. She's just given life. She's like, I'm alive.
Yeah. But she has she's almost, I think she also represents the control over Gehrman, because when you kill Gehrman but not the moon presence, you take his place.
Yeah.
Which, did you realize he had a peg leg?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I just noticed that this morning.
Got a spry old man with a peg leg.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm pulling up and I'm like, there's a boot, is that a... Yeah, he only has one leg.
I guess that would kind of explain why he's in the wheelchair, but at the same time, totally not.
Well,
Yeah.
then
Because that
later,
boss
it's
fight.
like, fuck that.
Maybe that he's been saving all of that old man energy for so long, and he just expels it once every generation when he has to take out one of his hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always left to the hunter's assistant to clean up after these kind of messes.
It does make sense when he uses when he goes into like the fast mode where he just kind of warps around. What is that, instant transmission from Dragon Ball Z rather than just rolling or whatever.
Yeah.
It could be that like he because he's getting so old, he kind of needs to use some kind of special power to get around.
That's the same effect. Like, it's a different color, but it's the same effect as...
If you're one of the... Well, it's not the blue elixir, but...
No, it's the old hunter's bone.
Old hunter's bone, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe it's his leg bone.
That's actually not a bad theory, because... Remember, Mikolash, even though he wakes up in the real world when you kill him, he's probably like dead in the real world. Just like Mensis and all of his people who went to sleep to go to the dream world, you find all their corpses where they went to sleep to go to the nightmare.
Their brains were also stillborn.
That's true.
And but except for Mikolash, I think he was the one.
Yeah.
Like, because I think that his body is the one that's sitting on the throne.
Not Mensis
as
himself?
it were. Do what?
Not Mensis himself.
No, like when after you beat the one reborn, you go into that room. There's all those in there. The school of Mensis is like, I don't think that Mensis is a person.
I thought he was. I'm pretty sure they refer to Mensis as a he a couple times.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I will check that out. But yeah, I think that Mikolash is the one in the chair.
Yeah, it's the nightmare of Mensis.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because he's called the host of the nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
But I've recently started to think that because I think that Marigo's wet nurse is the actual, like, they created it. They are the host in which we're all in his or her nightmare. I think that Mikolash is the host, as in like host of a party. Like I think that's his role, whereas this is actually.
So you think the School of Mensis created the wet nurse?
No, I think it invited the wet nurse. Wet nurse created a plane to meet them.
My understanding was that the plane already existed and they simply traveled there to meet Murgo and the wet nurse.
Okay.
Although they could have the nightmare could have been created as a meeting ground for them to meet.
Well, and when you killed the wet nurse, it's the night one of the 2 times that you get the nightmare slaying. And that's another part of it.
Sure. Yeah. So maybe the wet nurse created the nightmare. And then Mikolash is he's kind of like the conduit that brings the church, the School of Mensis, to them to convene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that
explained why. Yeah. Yeah. That would explain why when you kill Mikolash, you don't just the dream doesn't collapse.
Yeah.
Although it seems like the dream, like whoever created the dream, the host of the dream, doesn't necessarily have to be alive anymore.
Yeah.
Because I think what you're saying about the old hunter's bone, I think because obviously Gehrman was probably
Where did you get that?
You get that at the abandoned workshop. Mm-hmm. I think Gehrman might. I think perhaps we've gotten onto something that these dream worlds are created, like nightmares and dream worlds. They're created by the Great Ones, and when you go to sleep, you can kind of like transport your conscious to one of these places. I think, but I think your conscious can stay independent of your body even if it deceases in your original world.
Well, see that, and I think that too, which is what allows that to be Mikolash's body, which has obviously deceased.
Yes, and I think because if Mikolash's conscious is alive in the nightmare and his body is deceased, I think Gehrman's been dead for a long time, and the old hunter's bone might actually be his leg because it gives you the same properties of when he's warping around. Yeah.
Okay. Is the Moon Presence waging a proxy war on the other Great Ones?
It's viable.
I really like that one.
Yeah.
Like there's not a whole lot to explain it, but like it just makes sense because he created the hunter's dream from which all the hunters go and
to then kill more Great Ones.
Yeah. Although I mean because the hunter's dream was first created in tandem with the church to go and kill beasts, and then
where's that from?
I mean that's because
are you talking about the workshop or the dream?
Pretty sure the dream because then the hunter's purpose was to go out and go on the hunts, and that the church was very much pro hunt.
I thought that was out of the original workshop.
Yeah, it's true, but I think I
don't think the first hunters got to keep coming back.
Well, yeah, the first ones didn't, but I think after a time when because it says that where was it when they talk about how they used the umbilical cord to precipitate the meeting with the pale moon. They're probably referring because you find that at the abandoned workshop. I think at the abandoned workshop they found the umbilical cord. Let me read this quick. Okay. Great relic, also known as cord of the eye. Every infant has a precursor to the umbilical cord. Every great one loses a child and then yearns for a surrogate. The third umbilical cord precipitated the encounter with the pale moon, which beckoned to the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream.
Okay.
So yeah, I think
all right.
I think Gehrman and his hunters at the time found an umbilical cord, and it says that the pale moon beckoned them, not that they beckoned it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and which also contributes to the Moon Presence starting all this shit.
Yes. So it could have been that the hunters under Gehrman's tutelage began using the hunter's dream as a tool for them to perpetually keep fighting the beasts. But then because they're granted this tool through the Moon Presence, obviously it has a favor to ask, and the favor is maybe to go kill Murgo or to kind of you manipulate the hunters into waging a war with the other Great Ones.
Yeah, right.
What the motive would be for that, like why he would want to kill Murgo, or I'm not even sure Ebrietas factors in that equation because Ebrietas is one of the optional bosses. You never have to go to Upper Cathedral Ward.
Yeah.
So what the motivations there are is left up to interpretation, and there's not even a lot of evidence to go off of to make an interpretation.
I mean, they're Great Ones. They don't think like we do. It's
sure.
It's a different level of consciousness. So
I mean, we know that they have some needs that we have. I mean, they all want to have children,
sure,
and that's something that we can understand. They're all, even if they don't speak our language, they do communicate in a similar way.
Yeah. I just mean they've ascended. So what their reasoning, what we're trying to think of their reasoning might not be.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and-
we're coming from a completely different place.
And as far as ascension goes, we're talking about they are creatures that are able to, we think, create a plane and live on past where their physical body, if they have physical bodies. I mean, Formless Odin might not. It might just be a wandering consciousness. But we do know, like the brain of Mensis is a great one because it's able to transfer to you the moon word.
Yeah.
Which is how it says that when it's talking about the words is that they are we are not able to hear them, but it is their words inscribed on our minds. And that's the only time that happens directly. Most of the time it's through Carol runes, which I think you just take it.
Because Carol himself was
because
Carol himself was one of the few people who could like interpret find a medium where they could communicate the Great One's ideas back to us.
Yeah.
And the whole point of Carol runes was to try to do what the church was doing without blood, right?
Right. Carol and Willem had very
Trying to find
similar
another
strategies.
path.
Although they were not friends, or perhaps they were, but Carol didn't start making his runes till after he had lost contact with Willem. Because it specifically says in the Rune Workshop tool that Willem would have been proud if he had seen the work that Carol was doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Which implies that they haven't met since he started doing the runes.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then you were telling me something about the Eileen.
Yeah, so in the
You missed all this stuff.
Yeah.
I did.
That's fine. It's not too long.
This is one that I missed, which I haven't encountered Eileen yet. I kind of want to do this.
Yeah, so essentially, if you never engage in Eileen's story,
Okay.
you know how her actually you may not know how her story ends.
Nope. Oh shit.
So essentially, the way her story progresses is you meet her that first time and she says, "Oh, I'm a hunter of hunters.
Yeah.
You go off and do your thing. I'm doing mine. This is my job." The next time you see her is at some point outside of Odin Chapel. If you take a left immediately out the first door.
Okay.
I was never able to get her there.
Yeah, I don't know what the triggers for that, but if you find her there and she says, "Oh, nice seeing you again. Don't go back to the Tomb of Odin because one of my marks is there. His name's Henrik, and we know Henrik is Gascoigne's friend and the one that his daughter calls granddad. So she says that Henrik has gone mad, and I have to take care of him. But don't go down there because I need to take care of him. It's my thing.
And if you go there, he's there, right?
Yeah, and so is Eileen. And you see her waiting up the steps, kind of like waiting to attack him.
Yeah.
And then you just go and attack him, and then she comes in to help you. You have to be very careful not to kill her in the middle of the battle.
Okay.
But you kill Henrik, and she says, "Well, I didn't really need your help, but thanks anyway." And then later, I forgot, I might be skipping one, but the next time you see her after you kill Rom, you see her outside the steps of the
Leading up to the
where you leave the
Vicar
Vicar
of
Mila. She's sitting there on the steps and she's been wounded, and she says, "I've drunk a blood vial. I'm good for now. One of my marks is in there, but don't take that on. That's my fight." Of course, you ignore everything she says, and you go and you fight the thing. It's allegedly the hardest fight in the game, boss or no.
Brutal. It's so hard.
It's Amelia?
No, it's just an NPC.
It's in the same room.
Yeah,
it's a hunter.
It's called the Bloody Crow.
That has so many shots.
Yeah, and he has
shoot all the shots.
He has a unique weapon called the Chikage that is super powerful, but as long as you have it transformed, it drains your own health. But he has a whole shit ton of health, and his blood vials heal him almost to max, basically.
Yeah,
in one shot.
Yeah.
So he's the hardest fight in the game. A lot of people just glitch him to where if you can lure him back on the steps, he just sits there with his sword transformed, and you just wait till he drains himself. Just an AI glitch. But when you kill him, you go back to Eileen, and then she says, "Do you not listen to anything I say? But thanks for helping me. I'm going to live because of you. But I'm getting old. I probably should quit this line of work." So she passes on the mantle of Hunter of Hunters to you.
Okay.
And then the next time you reload, all that's left is a bloody splotch where she was. She's gone.
Okay.
And all people.
Hence, you were talking about, did she die?
Yeah, but I mean, she seems to be pretty confident when she's talking to you that she's not going to die.
Yeah.
And she passes it on to you not because she's dying, but because she's giving up this line of work.
Yeah.
And she says she took a blood vial. She says she's going to be fine.
It's enough to keep alive an old woman like me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think she died. I think she's got out of the game.
Okay, so that's one thing.
Yeah,
But if
that's
you
what you're supposed to do.
don't engage.
Yeah.
If you don't engage and you never see her again, or you never see her in the first place, after you kill Vicar Amelia and after you kill Rom,
Yeah.
if you go back to Vicar Amelia's room, Eileen is now the fight there. The Bloody Crow's not there.
And that's where a lot of
That's
the dialogue.
if you picked up her. So if you talked to her in the first place, but you never picked up.
you
anything
don't-
else.
Yeah, or perhaps you may never have had to talk to her. She may just pop up there without explanation if you didn't interact with her.
Yeah,
Because you haven't interacted, because you haven't befriended her or gained somewhat of trust.
Yeah, and
because she just sees you as another
hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her dialogue. I'll add the link to Eileen's dialogue in the description of this video, but like she has lines in there where she's talking about how she wants to kill all hunters.
Yeah.
She wants.
Does she? Oh, when she goes mad?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like and so there's kind of the idea that somewhere in her psyche is the idea that if all the hunters are dead, this ends.
Yeah, and I think one of the lines talking about how
her solution.
Yeah, she assumes when the Vidal when you're fighting her, I believe that she has dialogue that says like she's assuming that you're one of her marks, like all the hunters.
Yeah.
Like she thinks that all hunters are going bad. I just need to kill all hunters.
Okay.
And in order to understand why she goes crazy if you don't interact with her, I think there's a parallel with Dark Souls, and I'm gonna explain that real quick. So in Dark Souls, the theme of the game is about persevering in the face of incredible danger.
Yeah.
And each character, and this is what I'm talking about, how the characters are more developed in Firelink Shrine in Dark Souls. Each character has an arc that ends up in them going insane because they lose the will to keep striving for something. And in the world of Dark Souls, you keep resurrecting with the Dark Sign. Yeah. Eventually, you'll hollow if you have nothing else to go for.
Yeah.
One of the characters, and one of everyone's favorite characters, probably second only to Solaire, is Siegmeyer of Katarina, the Onion Knight. Mm-hmm. And his story is basically...
He tries so hard.
Yes. And so he comes from a culture of warriors that are always looking for a new fight.
Yeah.
And every time you encounter him, he's up against an obstacle and he doesn't know how to conquer it. And then at some point, you kind of bulldoze through it. Yeah. And he makes a comment about how, well, you're really turned out to be a good fighter yourself. Eventually, he starts making comments about how you're kind of taking the wind out of his sail and how it seems like every time you show up, I have a difficulty, you just show up and do it yourself. And eventually he goes insane and his own daughter has to kill him because he goes hollow. And I think Eileen's story is an inverted parallel to that. I think that if you don't interact with Eileen, the assumption is that all of those fights where you intervene and kill him for her, she's the one doing the killing.
It, yeah.
Right. And I think even though it says that the nose master it has incense in there to keep the blood away from her, or to keep the effect of the blood.
Yeah.
I think that when she's killing all of these people and getting the blood literally on her, I think the incense doesn't do any good. She starts going crazy with the blood.
Yeah.
And the fact that you interact with her and you're doing the bloody work for her, you're saving her from a fate she doesn't know that she's going to go to.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
That's my theory.
Okay. And then last one, we might have some more topics on there, but you were also talking about Queen Yharnam and Annalise being the same person.
Yeah, this is a theory.
It's going to take a lot of convincing.
Yeah,
because...
I just saw this theory like 2 days ago. Vadi Video put out a new video of 15 things you missed, part 2 or something.
I love those. I'm gonna link a bunch of that stuff by the way in the description.
Yeah, and in the second video, he talks about how when you kill Annalise is immortal, and when you kill her, she leaves that bloody pulp that you bring back to the body of...
you can nod all you want. You don't.
Because I've seen some cutscenes.
Yeah. And you bring that pulp back to the room with Ebrietas, the altar of despair, and there's the
where
body.
Rom's sitting.
Are we 100% that is Rom, or someone had the same fate as Rom?
I am.
Okay.
But anyway, continue.
Yeah. So you bring that to the Rom thing, the another vacuous spider, or a vacuous spider.
Yeah.
And you, for some reason, this corpse has the properties to reverse time. And so it's completely unexplained. I think I think this is mostly a gameplay gimmick, so that even after she dies with an Alfred storyline, she can kind of come back, so you can still get into and to
Maintain the
the Valblood allegiance. Yeah, so you can still get that. But it reverses time, and then she just pops back up at her chair as if nothing happened. She makes no comment about it. About her dying
it's one of the more disappointing aspects, because I was like,
odd.
because like she dies, and the other fun aspect of that is that's where Alfred goes batshit crazy.
Yeah, do you know about that?
No, I don't.
He's mostly helpful.
Yeah,
but
he helped me in a couple fights.
Yeah, and like he's
kill
like,
him.
hey,
Yeah.
I have information.
Was it because he was a man?
You want to talk about Byrgenwerth? I can talk about Byrgenwerth. I can tell you these. Like he's a really possibly the best source of in-game dialogue information.
Yeah, he explains. He's your first introduction to the church and Cainhurst and what happened in Old Yharnam and all this stuff and Byrgenwerth. And then we can go to his story in a little second.
Yeah.
But the idea is that Annalise is referred to as Queen of Blood.
Okay.
And then when you go and fight Queen Yharnam in the Chalice dungeons, you kill her. She leaves behind a bloody pulp that looks basically like a fetus, and it says that she lives forever through that. And the idea, and that she's also referred to as a Queen of Blood, and both of them are like prophesied to have a child of blood, and the idea is that they're both the same person somehow because of that, or at least they're analogous in some way. I would need to rewatch the video to see exactly what it is.
Analogous I could see, but I don't feel like I don't think there's enough evidence to necessarily say that.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
What?
And
I
then,
only had one other thing. Oh, so you had one other thing?
No, I was actually going to ask if there was. I mean, that's the things.
I was just saying there's only one other thing we didn't talk about.
What's that?
Which are the messengers.
Yeah, we've got
So
the fuck are the messengers?
everything else we might not have a complete explanation of, but at least we've got some.
We have ideas,
we have some
theories we can
ideas,
discuss.
some things that make sense. But what are the messengers? Are they just? I mean, is it? Does it have to do with, or does it lead credence to the idea that everything isn't a dream and these things are just part of that? Or
because
they seep through. I mean, they're in both the Hunter's Dream and they're in Yharnam. They're everywhere.
Yeah, and in the Nightmare Frontier, there's like little lanterns of light that you see to help guide your way.
Yeah,
those are being lit by little messengers.
That's how you know.
And in the Chalice dungeons as well. If you walk in a door, if you turn around and look as soon as you walk in the door, you see a messenger see you, open the thing and light it up and close it.
And that's how you know you've gone through there before.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you didn't know that.
Yeah. But yeah, like what the fact that they're there, like why are they placed there?
Yeah.
Who created them? What's obviously they're helping you, but is that their purpose?
Their origin.
Do they have something with the moon presence?
There is a piece. There is a piece where it says, I forget the source on this, but it says that the messengers. It might be in like the messenger description, but it says that they came from a nightmare, which is really weird because that's the only case that we've seen we've sent stuff from the world to nightmares, to the Hunter's Dream or whatever, but all of those had a basis in reality, and this is the only case that I can think of where something originates from the nightmare.
There is an item that specifically says that this can be found in, or this is can only be found in like the deepest nightmares.
Lead
elixir?
Lead elixir, yes.
I believe that's right. Like whatever component they use for the lead elixir. Yeah.
And you can find it in Nightmare of Mensis and
Nightmare
Frontier.
Yeah.
Which to me, and I don't remember if you were in here when we were talking about Laurent being real or whatever, and I said that it's like bordering on a nightmare because I feel like it's been taken over by Nightmare. And
possibly.
So that's a fun thing. You should watch the video.
I'll have to
watch the video that we're recording.
Might
learn a thing or two.
I might. So tell us what you thought of Bloodborne. What do you think about our theories and our lore? Do we miss anything? Or we probably did.
Yeah,
undoubtedly. And there's somebody. But what about this?
What about this?
And we'll hopefully get more answers and probably 50 more questions in Old Hunters DLC.
Yay!
Which we're all looking forward to. So. Give us comments, and we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.
Bye.